So it's finally happened. I bought my dream watch. This is my Rolex Explorer 2, reference 226570. It's taken nearly 4 years to make this happen, and this is the story of how it did happen. So for as long as I can remember, I've always wanted a Rolex watch. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, whenever you turned on to a sporting event, be it Wimbledon or Formula One, there are always two watch brands that you see there. One would be Tag Heuer and the other, Rolex. So for the longest time, many years, these two brands have resonated with me as the two watch brands that I'd love to own. Now, Tag Heuer's pricing relative to Rolex is a lot more accessible, so thankfully I've managed to own a couple of Tag Heuer's over the last 10 years or so. But Rolex has always seemed like a bit of an extravagance, just way too expensive, just something that's a bit too much. A lot to spend on a watch, and it's a shed load of money. But nevertheless, in November 2021, I decided, look, I'm doing well enough in my career now, stable family life. I can maybe think about going and buying one now. So, that was the worst time ever to be trying to buy a Rolex. Post-pandemic, Rolexes have just become like Rolexes had become like unobtainium. Everybody seemed to want one. But I thought, you know what? I'll put my name down. I walked into the Regent Street Watches of Switzerland, and I put my name down for a Rolex. I walked in and I proclaimed, I want to buy a Rolex. The salesperson looked at me and basically she went down the lines of saying, well, do you know what? You need to have had a decent spend history with us, and even then it will take quite a while. They're in great and high demand. It didn't really sound promising before I'd even spoken to them about which model that I wanted. So when I walked out of there, I walked out pretty much resigned to the fact that it wasn't really going to be happening. To be honest, I didn't even think that the salesperson had written anything down or had written any detail down about what I did want. So I walked out thinking it's probably not going to happen. Oh well, doesn't matter. Turns out they actually had registered my interest, but I will come to that in a bit. And just quickly, if you are enjoying this video, then please don't forget to subscribe. And if you do like the video, don't forget to like it as well, because that will tell YouTube that it was a good video, and maybe other people will get to watch it then. Thanks. So what Rolex did I put my name down for? When most people I think of Rolex, they think of probably two watches. First being Submariner, and the second being the Rolex Datejust. Now, the Rolex Submariner for me has always seemed a little bit boring, a little bit sort of, obvious almost. It's plain black and silver, which, it's a great watch. It's undoubtedly a great watch, but it just felt a bit boring to me. So for me, the watch that I'd always seen, well, basically, whenever watching one of those sporting events back in the day, you'd always see the fluted bezel, basically. And so the Datejust, well, actually the day date was probably the one that, was like, wow, I would really love to own a day date. But being only available in precious metals, i.e. like gold and platinum, that's just not going to happen. It's just way too expensive. Not something that I'll ever be purchasing unless I win the lottery. Which I'd need to actually play the lottery first to win it, so I don't, so there you go. Not going to happen. So it was going to be the Rolex Datejust. And what Datejust? A 41mm fluted bezel, Jubilee bracelet, and a blue, the dark blue dial. Fairly standard, nothing too, no extravagant colours or anything like that. So I walked in, put my name down, and walked out thinking I hadn't really put my name down for anything at all. Now, I don't live anywhere near central London. It's quite far away, but that's probably still the closest AD to me. And I'm not one of these people who's going to be walking in, stopping by to remind the salesperson that I exist and to do some chit chat and whatnot just for the privilege of spending my own money. That's not the kind of person I am. If I want to buy something, I want to buy something. I'm not going to spend a lot of time kissing backside to make it happen. So I went on my merry way thinking, yeah, it's not going to happen. But it wasn't until July 2024, some 2.5 years after having registered some interest, that I found out that actually Watches of Switzerland had registered my interest in the watch. I got an email for them, basically just saying, a reminder of your registration of interest. If anything has changed, let us know, blah, 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 blah. No commitment of any watch, anything like that. Nothing to say that I was actually going to get a watch, but at least I knew that the registration was there. It wasn't until I was next in London, which was actually on 5th of May 2025, so almost a full year later, that I wandered into the store and I thought, let me have a chat. This time I spoke to a sales assistant called Max, Great guy. Can't speak highly enough about Max. Great guy. He had a look at my profile, and actually he looked genuinely disappointed that after like 3.5 years or so that I hadn't actually received a call and had the opportunity to purchase one of the watches. Now, by now, I had a bit more spend history as well. See my watch linked up here about the Tudor Black Bay Pro after this one. But I wanted to change the watch that was on request. That was the main reason for going in. And what watch? Obviously, the Explorer 2. But this is why. Since 2021, having thought about the watch and the watch that I had on request, I realised that the Datejust really wasn't the watch for me if it ever became available in the first place. My wife describes the Datejust as an old man's watch. Now, I'm not that young, but I'm not that old either. And the Datejust really, to me, actually does seem to be and strike me more of a watch that, if I had ever met him, and if he'd ever had the means to do so, my granddad would have worn a Datejust. That's the kind of thing, that's what I kind of represents the Datejust for me. That just doesn't really work for me. So in a past life, before having young kids, the missus and I had really been all about exploration and going out on adventures. We've been up to Everest Base Camp, we've been up to Machu Picchu, Snowdon, what's the other one? Ben Nevis, Yorkshire Three Peaks, etc., etc. And over the last couple of years, looking at the Rolex Explorer 2 on Rolex's website, it just felt like that was the watch for me, if it ever was going to happen. And I know it's just marketing, but the Rolex Explorer 2 is all about exploration. It's cave diver's watch. Don't think you can get much more explory than that. And because I love traveling, the GMT complication has always resonated with me as well as something that I like having in a watch, especially something that I'm going to wear very, very regularly. But I also wanted a watch that doesn't scream that I've got a rollie on my wrist. Like the GMT Master 2 is a very loud watch. Again, like that's one of the reasons why my Tudor Black Bay GMT doesn't get as much wrist time as it used to, because so many people notice that watch and so many people point it out and talk about it. And actually, I don't want the watch to be a conversation starter in many ways. I don't want it to go noticed, because actually even like, not that I live in an unsafe place, but if I'm in London for some reason and people are noticing my watch, it's not necessarily the safest thing to do. So I love that the Explorer 2 is very much under the radar. It's not going to get noticed very much. It doesn't look like any other watch, but it doesn't scream Rolex like the fluted bezel or the GMT Master or the Submariner would do. Now, the Explorer 2 is a big watch. It's 42 millimeters, and it's quite heavy at that as well. But thankfully, like I've got a 7.25 inch wrist, and I think it works quite well with that. I think if you're anything under 7 inches, it's probably going to look a bit too big on your wrist. And I love the white dial and the black hands and just the cleanliness of the dial without a huge mess of text as well. And having that slightly bigger watch being 42 millimeters allows that, everything to have a bit of space to breathe, even though all of the markers and the hands and everything are, quite large, because this is an extremely legible watch because all of those markers and things are quite large. So I changed my request to the Rolex Explorer 2, and Max told me he should be able to sort me out in 3 to 6 months, which actually sounded fairly reasonable given that I'd only walked in now. 17 days later, on May 22nd, he calls me and he says, "Neil, I've got your watch. It's ready for you to pick up." So like a kid with a credit card in a toy shop, the next day I went over, picked up my watch, and I could not be happier. I've literally worn it every day since. It's already been abroad, exploring the streets of Vienna, and I look to put many, many more miles on this watch. I'm actually a bit worried that it's going to ruin the rest of my collection. I love this watch so much. But maybe that's just the honeymoon period, because it's only been a couple of weeks since I've had it. But yeah, I am worried about the rest of my watches just collecting dust in the bank. But hey-ho, there you have it. It's taken nearly 4 years, but definitely well worth the wait. And this is my Rolex Explorer 2. If you have enjoyed the video, please don't forget to subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.